Good evening and welcome to the first of our many debates during this election season. And we will start with what politics has become now, the art of defections, and how defections have actually completely skewed the electoral narrative and has become the most fundamental pivot around which democracy revolves. And that is something which we need to debate and analyze. But obviously we say this with a tinge of a lot of sadness, but the political class is not at all sad, because defections is linked to deals, it's linked to money, it's linked to power. But to think that this is an absolutely new phenomenon would also not be absolutely correct, because if you see in 1967 or in the late 60s and 70s, almost about 50% of the 4,000 legislatures all across the country, MLAs and MPs defected. And one also knows that, this whole phrase that we use for the politics of defections, Ayaram, Gayaram, came from a very interesting character called Gayalal, who moved from the Janata Party to the Congress to the Janata Party and back to the Congress in a span of 14 days. So it started then. Of course, here some new phrases have been coined called Aya Michael, Gaya Michael, and so on and so forth. In Goa also has played a not so glorious part in this whole mess. So obviously, let us also look into the fact that how the whole anti-defection law passed on the 18th of March 1985 has been kind of bypassed, misused, manipulated in such a manner that now the anti-defection law doesn't seem to scare anybody from defecting. I'll just quickly go through the three main aspects of the anti-defection law before I hand over to the panelists and introduce them. One was to curb political corruption. That was one of the main intent. Secondly, to strengthen democracy by bringing stability in politics. And thirdly, to make members of parliament and legislatures loyal to the parties that they are with. So one would say that on all the three factors, I think one has completely failed to carry out the intent of the anti-defection law. My panelists are senior lawyer, Advocate Radharao Gracias, then columnist and writer again, Advocate Cleofat Coutinho, and Rajendra Kakotkar. One would obviously look at his hat as an economist and a thinker, but also is a very senior member of the Trinamool Congress now, its vice president. I'll start with Radharao. Based on what I just said, would you like to just give your opening remarks and pontificate as to what the manner in which anti-defection law has been completely twisted?
See, I don't think anti-defection law has been twisted. It has been badly drafted. It seems to have been drafted in a hurry, and despite the passage of 2-3 decades, no party has thought it fit to plug the loopholes. So no one can, particularly the Congress, cannot blame anyone else, because the law was framed by them. But that apart, see, what happens is defections. There is a reason for what is happening now. You see, in Goa in 1967 or 66. The old United Goans party split into two. So one faction became the UGP Sikera group, and the other faction became the UGP Loyal Afortat group. When it came to the elections post split, the Sikera group swept the polls, at least as far as the UG strongholds was concerned, and the Rising Sun lost deposit in every constituency. Because that time people had a commitment to some cause. So, and they identified Dr. Jack Sikera with that cause, and they all went with him. Just another year or two later, the MGP split. There was the Bandodkar faction MGP, and there was the KB Naik faction. Same thing happened in the elections that followed. KB Naik faction was routed. Now that time the people voted for ideology, whatever it was, the pro-Konkani this side, pro-Marathi that side. But over the last 2 decades, in the 21st century, the people have lost, forget the leaders, you ignore the leaders. The people have lost that concern for ideology or supporting a particular way of thought. Today, every citizen is concerned only with personal benefit. People run wherever they look upon, they stand a chance. So they will hitch their wagon to whoever they think is a leader who will give them some benefits, and wherever he goes they follow him. That is why you have the politics now, where you don't have any more ideology or nothing. See, individuals can move overnight from BJP to Congress or MGP. At least there is no ideological restraint also. At least I grew up in an era when there were socialists, there were centrists, and there were communists, and there were rightists, like with the Janasang, communists like all that. And I can't imagine anyone shifting from the far left to the far right, the way things are happening. Tonight you are BJP, next day you are Congress, next day you are something else, when there is absolutely no ideological compatibility in the movement.
Yeah, I'll just come back to this point and dwell on it further. Cleophas, the issue is, we will get into why it happens, but the point is that what gives a politician that kind of a confidence to kind of flirt with the law, and what gives him the confidence to again go back to the people after betraying them?
See, if we look, Radharav was just now saying about 67 and all, but I remember in the, just before the 80 election when Luizin won Naveli, the ex-MLA there, that was constituency of Naveli and Shishini, there was a move, he did not defect. There was a feeling that he was going to defect. His house was attacked. He did not defect thereafter.
What was his name?
Leo Well.
Leo Well.
Okay.
See, that sort of vigilance by the people is not there anymore now.
Very good example actually.
Is not there anymore. Now look at the 10 who defected, look at the 3 who resigned. In fact, the 3 who resigned and thereafter got elected, they seem to have warded off defection, but in my scheme of things, those 3 who resigned used the government power to get elected. That is also a kind of defection. But right now we find that, see, our parties are based upon, or rather ought to be based upon 3 things: ideology, or could be some economic program, or leadership. And the party should revolve around that. But if you look at the current scheme of things, nothing is revolving around any ideology, not even around leadership, not even around any program. So this is just happening also because a feeling has come that nothing is going to happen. The anti-defection law has failed. Now when Radha says that it was drafted in a hurry, that is not correct. This move to draft started in 1967. This Ayaram Gayaram factor happened. They took 18 years to bring that law. In the meantime, number of bills lapsed. But in 84, when Rajiv Gandhi had a huge majority, he brought it. But the problem there was 2. One is the split, merger and the speaker. Now, if you go to see, the debate at that time was why the split was required, why merger is required. Because there was a feeling that if the concept of split is not kept, there would be party bossism. Why should the minority of a party be subjugated by the majority in a party? 1. Number 2, members would lose their vote of conscience. 3, they would lose freedom of speech. As a result of this, that exception of split and merger was made. Then after the split and merger was made, they realized that the split was getting misused. Like in 19 when Khalap was supposed to be the chief minister, they had 24. They had 24. Wilfred D'Souza had 16. So Wilfred D'Souza required 4 to form the government. But he split 8. Now that is because they had 24. So 1/3 is 8. So instead of getting 4, you get 8. So you, instead of having an individual defection, you now allow bulk defection. So they took another 18 years to do away with split. From 1985 to 2003, they changed did away with split for after 18 years. At the time when the split was done away with, the Law Commission and all committees had recommended that merger be also done away with. Because they realized that the purpose for which the split was kept is not meeting the purpose. It is being misused.
And post which, what happened?
Yes, and thereafter, now look at the split and merger. We thought that, okay, now you may require 2/3 to merge. Nothing, it would not happen. But in Goa, we had 2 from the MGA and claimed 2/3.
Yes.
10 from Congress went and claimed they are 2/3.
And technically they are right.
Yes, technically no. I don't, technically they are right and technically they are wrong because that issue has not been resolved. Say, a issue like political party and a legislature party. Can a legislature party only split and a political party did not split? Or say, the Indian National Congress can split at a local level? Now all these issues require
Thorough debate.
yes, but I would say in there also these issues could have been resolved, but I would say our courts have not helped us at all. It is also their failure in resolving these issues. For a long time, courts have not taken seriously this issue which affects parliamentary democracy. I would say parliamentary democracy is an important part of republic. So this issue of loyalty, because finally we will find this is the people get power through their leaders. They elect their leaders.
Yes, yes.
And then if they are disloyal, like it is not that loyalty, disloyalty is not there in other countries. In US, UK, Australia, we also know there was shifting loyalties. Governments collapsed like a pack of cards in England in the 19th century. But they never did it for money and power. They had a problem on program. But here our problem is money and power. And somehow they use development which people accept.
Rajan Babu, a quick question. Based on this, you can elaborate on this, but I have a specific question. See, what happens is, these days, do you agree that whenever a party wants to kind of set up or grow or expand or strengthen, the common route is to go and shop, not build or create or organically grow. So what happens is, the quickest route to forming a party or having an organization is to first look who is available amongst the political class in different parties and go and see where a person is available and to get them. That becomes not just the shortest route, but that seems to be the most obvious route. Now, why do political parties have to adapt to this? And do you agree to a certain extent that TMC took that approach?
Now, defection is a word loosely being used in the media. Defection should apply only to elected members, not to the unelected member. Now, Lavu Naik, whatever he does, goes from 20 parties, should not be treated as a defection because he is a normal person. Or say somebody else who is not an MLA or MP, if he defects, it is not of any question.
Right.
Or it only matters when the person is elected and elected.
Yes, let's talk about elected people who are
elected people,
yes.
and in the probably 75 or 80% of those 5 years.
Right.
Towards the end, if he resigns, it is well and good, so that he doesn't resign or defect after the new fresh election. Now, we will compare two defections. One is Vishwajit's defection and Sopte's defections or Subhash's defection. Now, Vishwajit resigned, then got himself upgraded as a minister, and with that strength, he faced the electorate.
Yes.
Whereas Sopte did not get upgraded. Maybe he got some push-up that he is from the ruling side, that's all. And then he faced the electorate. But the 10 fellows who had defected without facing the electorate is criminal. So this defection is the worst kind of defection. Now there are some defections even which are between one party to another like-minded party. It's just like from Herald to Navin Times or Navin Times to Herald. People keep changing companies. Same thing it is. Poaching is not like defection.
I don't know whether it's the same thing or not, but please add or counter.
See,
I don't know whether that example holds, but
the problem what he says is that before election and after election, see finally a parliamentary democracy is based on a party system. We can't imagine a democracy without parties. Imagine 300 people getting elected to the Lok Sabha or 25 people getting elected to the Vidhan Sabha independent. They can create chaos in society. They can create chaos, and that is why we have these parties. Now, when he says that before election it is not defection, I would say the Election Commission also must preserve our party system. It is their responsibility to bring in reforms to preserve the party system.
I would like to object to this.
Okay.
In fact, let me complete my point clear.
Let him complete it.
Maybe the Election Commission of India says that to contest election on a particular ticket, you ought to be a member for a period of 3 years, maybe 1 year, maybe 6 months, some time frame for a party person to
That's a solution, correct. Yes.
on that party. Otherwise, you will not get a party ticket. So, some sort of a discipline.
Check and balance has to be there.
Some has to be there.
You wanted to counter it.
One more thing. On the matter of Sokte and Shirodkar, see, they have joined a ruling party. The ruling party in power also backs them up. And then they contest election. Same thing has happened in, say, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, where you support, you resign, go to the ruling party, then contest elections. See, when you are given a ticket, you win on that ticket. Right. You apply for a ticket, you win on the ticket, and after winning, I don't think this option of even resigning should be kept. Right. Because it is playing havoc with our parliamentary system. Yes, nobody must be permitted to do that.
I'll deal with it again. Quick rebuttal to him, and then I'll come to
the
Radha.
onus of having party system remains with the party, not the Election Commission or anybody else. Now, when you have a party and it conflicts with the constitution, why should that person be loyal to that party? If the party's function itself is detrimental to the society, detrimental to the state. For example, I'll tell you, in 2012, BJP had got some 15-16 MLAs who were out of power. They never wanted any development. Nobody joined Congress. It's only Congress fellows who joined BJP.
No, so are you
see, it is onus is on the party.
No, so are you advocating?
BJP, I am alleging that BJP kept their MLAs with them in 2012, prior to 2012, when Digambar was Chief Minister. They didn't allow them to go to
So
Congress.
are you saying, just one quick clarification, one quick clarification, I'll come to you. From what you just said, are you also saying, are you making this point that if the party itself is diseased, and there are people within the party who feel that the party is diseased, they must be given a window to move out.
Correct.
Quick response.
I will tell you. Yeah. According to me, this whole issue of party is known to you when you take a ticket. One, I think you should reckon that the leadership may also change. You should reckon that certain policies may change. But at the same time, the majority in a party must not overpower the minority. In any case, see, like now we find that on anything and everything, a whip is issued to members, and the members have to vote as per the whip of the party. So what Rajendra says, that if a party goes against the constitution, we can have a system whereby the whip which is issued, whip can be issued only when a party can come down, a government can come down or a government can get saved. A whip can be issued for budget proposals. No other matters a whip can be used by the party.
Your quick response.
I just want to know why BJP fellows did not leave and go to Congress.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but we must get Radharao in.
See,
on purely constitutional legal matters on this. Your quick response to what
See, what happens is when a political party is registered, it has an ideology and it has a program. So MLAs are elected on that party's program. So the moment you are elected on that program, shifting to another party should not be permitted at all. Assuming that you are elected on X party and you have differences with the leadership, you may split the party. Fair enough. You split the party, but you continue as a split faction of that party. Don't merge. Now, more important, now how can this be avoided? There must be a provision in the law which would say that where there is a party splits, the splitting members shall not be entitled to become ministers. Because this whole thing is happening because you want to be a minister. Let a law be implemented where if you split and you join a party in power, you can be there for the remainder of the term, you don't become minister. Let's see who splits. Everybody is going
or any other office of profit. You can't be a chairman of a corporation.
Yes, anything, no position of power.
If first have cooling period of 1 year.
No,
I would no office at all. Yeah, no office at all. No for the remainder of
No, in fact, I had written an article some time back where I had said that once a political party, if you are there as a member, as Cleo has now pointed out, you are not eligible for a party ticket unless you have been a member of that party for a particular period. The moment there is such a clause, you can't resign and join another party and get elected because the law prevents you from becoming MLA.
Okay, rather not.
But whatever he has suggested is perfect. But for these electoral reforms to happen, BJP will never do because their MLAs don't go to Congress. Congress MLAs go to BJP.
No, it is not like that. No, it is not like that. Let me. It is not like that. It is not like that. No one goes from BJP now into another party because the BJP controls the enforcement directorate.
See, what
simple
is
as that.
Even in 2007, 12 I am talking when the
but we must understand that when
as well as state, BJP had 16. None of them defected for the development.
The problem is when Congress was in power at the center, Congress was accused of using
the law. That's my point.
That's
my point.
Now BJP is in power. Now BJP is in power. They are using the law.
I know, but in the 80s and 90s, the Congress used to maximize.
Yes, absolutely.
Not 80s and 90s. I'm talking of specifically 2007.
I mean the JMM cash for votes.
Entire Northeast. Entire
Northeast JMM cash for votes. Narasimha Rao survived.
Absolutely.
So we can't absorb the
It is not that.
No, I am specifically talking of 2007 to 12.
Okay, fine.
There were 16 BJP fellows who none of them, not even a single defected for developing their constitution.
No, see, if Karnataka had the infamous Operation Lotus when 13 MLAs went, the Congress had the infamous Operation Hand also. So it all happened.
The party in power does it, but now they are doing it more sophisticated. And as Radha says, ED.
But Radha, I would like to come to you and ask you some specific question. Right? Radha, you are known as a political Chanakya in Goa's politics. You have played a large part in a lot of these activities that we are talking about. You are no stranger to defections. You have been in the heart.
I have never defected myself.
Heart of manipulative politics. Okay, so the issue is that if defection in Goa has happened, if parties have split, gone to others, if people have left parties and come, you've used a large part of your immense intelligence in getting this done. So, would you like to share for the first time what was your motivation in doing this?
See, there is no question of motivation. Now, essentially, I am a lawyer. Now, when someone approaches me to find a solution to a problem, it is the work of every lawyer to read the law and to find a way, if not straight, around it, by dribble through it. That is what any lawyer will do.
One example how you did it?
No, there is no question of doing any specific case. But what happened, you read the law, if a party wants to split or want to go out, see, we have to show them a way within the law. You may have to bend the law.
Right.
That is what any lawyer would do.
Right.
That is what every lawyer does also. So your work is to show your client a way around. And somehow or the other over the last few years, see, let me also put it on record. I have been anti-Congress from day one. I have never been part of the Congress. So any opportunity to put the Congress in place, I would never miss. That is the reality. I would if the Congress needs to be taught a lesson, I am prepared to help you. And that was my motivation. The Congress has to be put in place because I always believe that the Congress is the party responsible for all the mess that is in the country. The Congress is responsible for bringing Modi in because if their administration was proper, the BJP would never be in power.
But is that the reason to justify defections?
I am not justifying defections. See, if defections take place, see, I am not someone who has ever gone and recommended or instigated anyone to defect. But if some group is there already set and they want to defect, and if they have sought my legal advice on how to avert a defection petition, I have certainly showed it. There is no two ways about it.
One more question that all of you all can answer. in Goa, whenever defections have happened, you see stalwarts have been in the middle of it. You've had Ravi Nayak, you had Ramakant Khalap, and what have you. And the issue is that in Goa, defections are not done by small level politicians. The biggest politicians have indulged in defection. The Speaker of the Goa Assembly, Louis
I would say in the 90s,
principal defector.
the 90s, that period
Yes.
belonged to Wilfred D'Souza.
Yes.
He did it very well. Managed the whole, particularly that Ravi Naik and that episode was very well handled by him. Full marks to him.
So when you say that, you say it with an element of pride.
I'm not saying it with pride. I'm not saying it with pride.
Yes,
but I'm saying he managed it.
Yes.
He managed it.
But could you, all of you all are political
But
veterans.
that defection was Congress to Congress.
No, I understand.
Congress A to Congress B.
No,
It was MG to Congress.
But
MG to Congress.
see, what I wanted to know here is that during that period, during this tumultuous period of the 1990s, how did people pull this off? And in the sense that what were the reasons behind this? Because political, you see, one would agree that at that point of time, political ideology was a little stronger than what it is now. One would say, okay. But if that was the case in a situation of political ideology becoming important and still playing a part, how did it happen even during that era?
So somehow I find that Wilfred D'Souza was playing his cards very well.
Okay.
And to beat him, of course, the other side was also doing it.
Right.
But he managed it very well. I think.
Sujoy,
Yeah.
See what happened. This thing started in 1990.
Huh.
From 1980 to 1990, Rane was the chief minister for 10 years.
Right.
But Rane was the chief minister without actually having the support of all the legislators, because
Right.
High Command wanted him.
Right.
Now in 1990,
Right.
the Congress got 19 seats, the MGP got 19 seats, and there were two independents. So the Congress formed a government
Right.
with Rane as the CM. Now it was very close, 21-19, something like that. So it was at this point of time, there were elements within the Congress who felt that as long as Rane is there, they will never have a chance to be CM. So it is here that Dr. Luis Prat-Barbos, he was a pretty senior MLA, much senior to Rane,
Right.
that point of time, was ready and willing to try his luck.
Right.
But let us teach these people a lesson. So that time, 7 members from the Congress, with Churchill Alema, who had just been elected 3 months earlier, instigating the whole thing. And a group of 7 broke away from the Congress, and 19 of MGP plus 7 of Congress, they formed a government PDF or something.
Yes.
So this 19 plus 7 together formed 26, and that is how the PDF government came in.
Yes.
But then again, Wilfred D'Souza came into the picture once Rane was out. And Wilfred D'Souza broke away 7 members from the BJP headed by Ravi. And I think it was on a promise that MGP. So
Yes.
MGP broke.
Yes. Yes.
And 7 members from the MGP joined the Congress. And the deal was that Ravi will be CM for 6 months.
Yes.
So, but of course, once Ravi became CM, he refused to get down. So after some 1.5 year, High Command made him get down, a lot of things happened. So Willie became CM, even though in 1980, when the Congress was led to power, it was under Willie's presidentship. Rane was nowhere in the picture. But he was denied the CM for whatever the reason. So Willie became CM for the first time in 1990, in November or so,
Yes.
after this government collapsed. So that was the first successful revolt in Goa. Before that, the earlier revolts, the revoltists did not exactly.
No,
I want to slightly add to this.
Okay.
We are looking at it very politically.
Yes,
Right.
I am
But politically, and he's right,
Right.
on numbers.
Yes.
I look at it as uprising, or not uprising, a real estate revolt. See the kind of people that were involved in bringing down that government, and the people who are moving to bring in, say, which is this? I'm talking about the Churchill, that Luis Prat-Barbosa.
When Luis Prat-Barbosa was speaker and he defected as speaker.
That was a total move of the real estate lobby.
They wanted them.
Yes, they did not. They wanted their pound of the flesh. And let us not name people, but my clear reading is that it was a real estate.
So
move at that time.
are you saying that was the beginning?
That
of
was the
period
beginning.
when
That-
external influences led to changes in government.
No. I mean, it is not the beginning. You see, in Goa,
90s is the beginning.
governments have always been controlled by lobbies. From 1963 onwards, it was the mining lobby. then there was a forest lobby, then there was a transport lobby. They were all controlling government this way or that way. Then when Goa became, suddenly a desirable destination to people to come and build houses and settle, that is when
economic reforms.
Okay.
The tourism boom.
Yes.
The tourism
So
boom.
that is when Goa became desirable destination, land prices shot up, and that is when the real estate
So are you
lobby.
saying that is the time ideology collapsed? Because
Yes, absolutely.
Because there was a time when there was
See, because-
UG and
no,
MG
you look at-
ideology was there.
Otherwise, you look at it, our ideologies and movements have also collapsed after the new economic reforms.
Right.
So it is bound to be that this sort of activity will increase, and from then onwards, almost every government, every this in power, the importance came to the town and country planning portfolio. All governments thereafter has been brought down or come up on the town and country planning portfolio. From 90s onwards is the real estate issue.
Right, ma'am, I'll just ask you one more question. We'll take a short break for 2-3 minutes. Finally, let us kind of accept, or should we accept, that defections has become so much a part of our political process that unfortunately it is being seen as given. It is no longer seen as an aberration. It is seen as something that is almost a part of our political system. And so much so that when these elections are around the corner and we'll be voting in about a fortnight from now, nobody is really keen on what is happening before elections. Everybody knows that the real election will be fought after the results actually come out. And when there will be no coalition, no ideals, essentially deals will be done. Has this become the sad reality of current day politics?
See, it is not the reality. Now, for example, Congress has taken that vote. What is the value of vote for people who do such a thing? 10 fellows who moved there. What is the use of this type of votes? It's just fooling people.
Right.
See, this is the problem is with legislation. Congress did not do all along this legislation, and now they have no chance to do the legislation because BJP will not do the legislation because their people do not move out. Even if they move out, they contest independent. Now, whoever has left BJP and revolted and doing this contesting are contesting independent. They are not contesting on BJP. The revolt, whatever shift, I would not call it what you call as a defection, because now what is happening is only a shift. It is not defection. Defections will be when you get elected.
No, that's what I'm saying. The sad reality is the game will be played after the 10th of March.
Yeah, I have a small this.
Yes.
See, when the law was brought, it was 1985. That was the time of single party governments. After 1989, we have coalition governments. We have now in our elections various pre-election alliances. Like TMC has an alliance with MGP. Goa Forward has an alliance with the Congress. Now these alliances may break down after 2 years. They may break down after 1 year. They may break down after 3 years. Or they may not honor the alliances. But there must be some arrangement whereby at least immediately after the election, the governor recognizes the alliance. So I would say a pre-election alliance must be registered with the election commission, and the election commission must have provisions to also
recognize them as one entity.
Yes, one entity till, of course, immediately for the governor to invite. Because what has happened is we have to bind ourselves down with laws and more laws. It was Nehru who thought that traditions would rule us. Ambedkar wanted to put things in writing. He put lot of things in writing. According to me, now time has come when everything has to be put in writing. Even a pre-election coalition has to be recorded with the election commission.
On this note, we'll take a short break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back. I'll start this this session by looking at solutions, or looking at how we could both politically and legally tackle this whole scourge of defections. Firstly, I'll start with you, Radha. Politically, what needs to be done? I'm not. Don't wear your legal hat. Wear your political hat. As to what could be the checks and balances and the detriments to this? How can we ensure that this doesn't happen? Should the checks and balances come from the people? Should it come from parties? How do we go about doing this?
You see, actually, I had gone through the law and I had felt that even under the existing law, there is a way out. And despite all my reservations about the Congress, I felt that there was a civic duty on me to share whatever I feel with the Congress, so that defections, irrespective of who is the beneficiary, are stalled. So I contacted Digambar Kamath, contacted Cleopath, and I sat in his office with Digambar 4 or 5 days back. And we discussed.
Oh, this happened recently?
3 or 4 days back. And I felt that there was a way of doing it. But then, and after I discussed that, I told one thing to Digambar. I would suggest this is the way. I will not tell you here. I'll suggest you do this way. And when the matter does go up to the speaker, whatever, see that advocates are here. I will tell you.
What was the nature of your the attempt?
No, nature of my attempt is to suggest a solution where the Congress can do something which will preempt defections.
Right.
Now, this was discussed, and I told him, you don't come out with those high-flying lawyers from the High Court. If the matter goes up to the Speaker, lawyer like Cleopath and I will come. Because I have these lawyers from the High Court and Supreme Court, they come with all sorts of citations. They go on reading judgments of High Court.
Right.
Rarely do they apply their mind to the law and find a way around it. That is my impression.
Right.
But then, as it happened, of course, the Congress has a top lawyer in Chidambaram, who is their observer. He had his own ideas, and he said, no, we will not do this. So, actually, I had felt that it could be done, and it would have certainly deterred.
Without revealing the nature of your discussions, can you keep that aside? But apply your mind and tell viewers as to what can political parties do by and large to ensure that defections do not happen.
See, every party has been trying to do something. Now, what I have suggested is something. The moment becomes public, it loses. It cannot be enforced.
Right.
You understand, no? That had to be done by the party before giving, at the point of giving tickets. But that is not done. So it cannot be. There
no. But can we look at other things that are already in the public domain and people who spoken to, for instance, parties being very clear in the sense that if somebody leaves the party closes its doors to that person for forever, stuff like this. Or can there be a larger consensus among different political parties that if a defection happens from one party, another party will not accept it or take that person. Now, of course, this is all utopia. My point is, it will seldom happen in a political atmosphere like this when it's absolutely dog eat dog. But my issue is that before we go into the legal aspects, can we still look at a way there? Cleopath, you may answer if.
See, according to me, besides political, we require a legal solution. Because I would say that our legislators have to be bound by law. Right. There is no other way dealing with this curse. Firstly, I would say the speaker cannot decide this issue. And there are various solutions as to who will decide. Lot of law commission reports say it should be decided by the election commission. I would say even election commission, no. This issue of defection destroys our parliamentary system. It should go to the High Court directly. The Chief Justice of India must be enjoined with the responsibility to decide this matter within a period of 1 month or 2 months, maybe maximum 3 months. It should be by the Chief Justice. If the Chief Justice of India, of the High Courts, have a responsibility and duty to appoint arbitrators, then according to me, there is nothing wrong in giving them the responsibility of deciding on defections. One, the issue of merger must be done away with. No question of merger. Third is the issue of political party and legislature party must also not be there. It is political party which sets you up. Fourth, nobody can resign during the course of the term. Maybe, as Rajendra said, the party is acting against the constitution. You are an elected member. You do not agree with the party. You have a right to resign and go. You have no business to come back to that house, even on another party. One. I would say further, if it is a proved defection, it should not only be member of that house, but for another house. It should be something like 6 years or maybe 7 years. So that there has to be some punishment for a proved defection. And finally, I would say that there has to be some total time frame in this, and if there is a time frame, defections will come to an end.
Can we even go to
But
the
what he
extent?
says is correct. But this is for 2027, not for 2022. The law is still there. That is, somebody has to change it. Now, to change it, if the BJP is there, they will not change it. They will keep it like that because they are always the beneficiaries.
See, the problem with law is like this. In 67, this problem started. It took 18 years to bring the law. It took 18 years to do away with split. We are at the next 18 years. I don't think we can stop talking and making suggestions. We have
But
to
our
continue.
immediate problem is 2022
No,
after
but
this
no, but
election.
the point is 2022 is upon us.
Yes.
It's only
So
about
how,
14 days away.
what is the solution for 2022? Now what is happening is Congress is overconfident.
But isn't it?
Thinking that they will get majority. If they end up getting a shock that they get 10 or 11, what is the plan they have to keep?
See, I don't think
Because
that-
BJP also will not get more than 14 or 15.
I
So
don't-
what is their plan?
I
To
don't
keep
think
the
we are-
other flock
I
together.
don't think we are discussing micro issues. We are discussing broad issues.
We're discussing broad issues,
Broad
but,
issues.
But
since
can't
you
go
raised
up to
it-
27.
No, my issue is that okay. The point here is
We have to tackle
but, yeah, but
22.
there is a limitation of time in the sense that it's practically not possible to bring about a legislation in the next 14 days.
Correct.
Okay,
It will not come.
But I think the elections, if the people now teach a lesson to party hoppers, and if say in you look at it this way in Bengal, most of the people who defected from TMC to BJP lost. About 6 of them won. Most of them lost. If such a line is taken by the people, then possibly
right. Coming to the most important aspect of this, we now let us put the light and the focus upon ourselves, voters, people, citizens. The issue here is that don't we agree that as long as citizens go after a particular candidate irrespective of all his ills. See, for instance, the point here is without being defamatory or disrespectful to any honorable MLA, but isn't it a question that people are asking that how can a person with so many criminal charges and other controversies go on winning? Like a Babush Montserrat in Talegaon, he wins primarily because people blindly support him because he is seen as a benefactor. Now the point is now in this particular elections, the election commission has very categorical that parties have to ultimately declare the criminal antecedents of their particular candidate on their website and on their homepage.
I have a problem with this criminal record. Now look at Babush Montserrat's case. How many years it is pending? Look at the Louis Bajakir. How many years it is pending? Why should a case against an MLA or an MP run for such a long time? And as long as the police is under the government and as long as the court has not held them guilty, is it proper to hold them guilty at this stage?
Fair enough.
Now, I can understand if the police was not under the government. If the police was not under the government, if the ID, ED were not under the government, then you are right. You are right. When charges are framed, maybe you can claim that.
The point is, criminality and antecedents are a separate debate altogether, which we have also planned. I just mentioned the criminal part in passing. Now, my focus of my argument or submission was that you see, if a particular candidate or particular politician is known as the strong man or the benefactor or the Robin Hood of a particular area, and if he helps lives of people across generations, it doesn't matter where he goes, which party he goes to. I mean, the issue is, doesn't matter which political jersey Vishwajit Rane wears, or Babush Montserrat wears, or now we even have a Michael Lobo who's taking that kind of a role. So the issue is that the political ideal seems to be somebody who can control his constituencies by being almost being like the presidential figure in that particular constituency, or the big lord of that constituency, or the king of that constituency, as the case be.
At one time we had these lords in constituencies. Now they are extending it to talukas.
Talukas, absolutely
Look at
correct.
Babushin Tiswadi, Michael Lobo in Bardez, then Vishwajit in that. It is no longer constituency. It is going to talukas.
So then when this happens, when a lord of a constituency gets this kind of a confidence that the votes are for me and not for my party, it is very difficult to check any kind of anti-defection, because it is entirely that person's whim and where he goes. So don't you agree that unless people decide to vote on party lines and not on candidate lines, then this defection will also happen? Of course, we give the other argument.
But why will people do it just because somebody else says it? Right. We are three of us and fourth is you. Right. We four say, why will 30,000 people
believe this?
The problem
it's
here.
the will of the electorate.
Correct, absolutely.
Which is supreme.
No, I totally agree. So what I'm saying is, if the will of the electorate is centric to the benefits that they are personally getting,
absolutely,
that's what's going to happen.
See, Surjoy, the problem is, as far as the political parties are concerned, see, there must be a political party which should be able to field and get good men elected.
Right.
Suppose tomorrow a young good man who is a good knows law, knows everything is there. You don't expect him to go in the field and mobilize votes. Our whole failure is because our political parties have ceased to exist. Even the BJP we have seen. So the political parties are at the mercy of so-called winning candidates or winnable candidates. And as long as you depend on the winnable candidates, a political party does not have a separate existence apart from these winnable candidates. So they dictate the affairs. Now, I will just take you back. See, we were under the Portuguese for so many centuries. And one can't run away from the fact that the Portuguese imposed their own values, their own character and their own discipline on us. And for the first 25-30 years, even the MGP was ruling, all the MLAs were those who were brought up during the Portuguese era. All MLAs. They were born and brought up during that era. And that discipline which was imposed, that character, is still reflected here. This is the reality. Now, later on, by from 1990s, if you see, it is post-liberation people born and brought up there who became MLAs. And see, essentially, I always say this, we as Indians, we lack character and we lack discipline. This is seen all over the country. We have no discipline. We are completely indisciplined people, and we lack basic character also. And this is what is responsible for the mess we have today. An MLA merely reflects the character of the people, nothing more, nothing less. So when the people themselves are such that they do not mind their MLA defecting 10 times, so long as their personal interests are served, this is the sort of MLAs you are going to get. Absolutely. So we are now increasingly becoming Indianized. See, Goa was a different kettle of fish. There is no dispute on that count. And because of our separate historical reasons, we had a different approach to life. But with now that we are becoming part of the national mainstream, the national mainstream is also percolating here, and we are showing the national tendencies. And only a strong law can change it. There's no point in.
But defections happened in the 90s also, 30 years after the Portuguese.
1990s, that's what I'm saying. It started in the 90s. First 30 years, even if there was defection, the parties were split. They didn't merge with the other party. They just remained like that. They contested elections as Sikera group, as Loyal Furtad group, KB Naik group. Here they joined the other parties and contest. There is no ideological affinity at all between what you got elected in and what you have joined.
Even 70 Jack Sikera went to this thing, Janata Party.
See, what happens is, what Radha says is right, the party system has to be strengthened.
That's right.
Party system, because we are looking at the party system and defections. A time would come when the entire system would collapse. See, you started it in the beginning that the parties should grow. Right. The people, the leadership must grow into parties. But when you build a party by poaching, immediately just before election, another party, and if this trend continues, and if what has now seen in Goa continues for one election, two election, our system will collapse. Somehow, I would say, besides strengthening the defection area, it is also the responsibility of the Election Commission to strengthen the party system. There has to be some discipline within the parties.
Okay, but just 2 minutes each of you, and before you conclude, legal and constitutional solutions that you would have in mind to check defections.
We have discussed that same things. There should be
No,
a system.
let's sum it up.
Somebody, for me, somebody who wants to resign, he should have cooling off period.
Right.
Definitely 1 year, 2 year. That is.
So you are
to be
saying cooling
discussed.
off period means that he cannot
can
contest
do
elections.
Nothing.
Okay. He
As
cannot
far
contest.
as,
Okay, that's your solution.
Yeah, to whatever I have stated earlier, I would also say that somehow the whip which I have stated earlier must be restricted to governments collapsing and being formed and budget proposals, so that members have freedom to speak on any bill, like the Bhumiputra bill. Maybe some people wanted to back it, somebody wanted to oppose it. There cannot be a whip on such a bill. No government would collapse on such a bill. So you should have a freedom to vote on those bills.
But you're okay with somebody resigning and going to the people under the terms
No,
of the civil
I
service?
would say during that period you are out of the house. You cannot have any office of profit, as you said. I would be very happy with this power going to the high courts, not even to with the election commission. And the high courts also must decide within a period of 2 months. Our higher judiciary has let us down on this area of defections.
Rather, please sum it up with your solutions.
See, the solution would be a wholesale change in the law, because the law as it exists is completely defective. It is actually an encouragement for people to defect. It encourages wholesale defections rather than retail defection. So I would feel that we need Parliament to have a complete relook at the law. And I would feel that if an MLA chooses to contest on a particular party ticket, and if midstream he feels for whatever reasons that he disagrees with the party, he is entitled to resign from the party and sit at home until the new elections come. He should be required to join a party if he wants after resigning, but cannot contest until a cooling period.
Absolutely. Correct. Perfectly. I agree.
Sadly, we are out of time, and this discussion can go on for hours and hours. But I thank all my panelists for a very interesting and a very riveting discussion. And I'm sure these are points that need to be debated. But most importantly, I would sum up by saying that we the people need to change. We need to introspect and look beyond our immediate needs for the sake of Goa and India, as the case may be. Thank you very much, and see you whenever we do the next debate now. Thank you.